Now that I've made it through M21, it's time to review the new legendary creatures coming out of the new product, Jumpstart. Let's take a look. What's up, Commander players? I'm Matt, and you're watching Top Commander. So, M21 got spoiled, and right after we got the new Jumpstart product that's finished spoiled now. So it's time to look at the new legendary creatures coming out of Jumpstart. But before I get into that, if you wish to support this channel, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support this channel directly, be sure to hit up patreon.com/topcommander, and you can also follow me on Twitter at MattWallace19. I'll have both of those down in the description below. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, apparently the Jumpstart set has a ton of cards. Now, the majority of the cards from this set are reprints, which I'll probably do an entirely separate video talking about the notable reprints for Commander players that are coming out of this product. But today what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the, not all of the legendary creatures, because there is a total of 26 legendary creatures out of this set. So I'm going to go over the 10 legendary creatures that are brand new coming out of Jumpstart. And I'm probably just going to go through a couple of the reprinted commanders, just the more noteworthy ones that haven't been printed in a while. So let's go ahead and start off with one of the new ones. This is the new, apparently it's a Selesnya commander. Emiel the Blessed. 2 generic and 2 white for a 4/4 legendary creature unicorn. We might have a unicorn legend that's legal. 3 generic. Exile another target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So, a little bit of a blink effect. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay a hybrid green-white, so hybrid Selesnya. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on it. If it's a unicorn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it instead. Okay, so this is actually kind of cool. So we have a legendary unicorn, so we can do unicorn tribal. It cares about unicorns. I'm not really sure on how many unicorns are printed in the game of Magic right now. Hopefully with this, we'll be getting some more a little bit later on down the road and slowly be able to make a deck out of this. We're also in green and white, and you have access to changeling creatures, so don't forget about that. The activated ability is a blink effect, so I like it. It's kind of interesting seeing a blink effect in green and white, honestly. Besides, obviously, like Rune or Chulane bouncing something, but just a straight Selesnya commander. This is kind of interesting. Being in green, you'll have the ramp to be able to pay the 3 pretty easily. There's nothing really out there besides maybe Heartstone, which is the 3-mana artifact that reduces activated abilities by 1, to be able to lower that cost a little bit, because Zerta is in red and white. Then you have Training Grounds, which is in blue, and then you have the Biomancer's Familiar, which was a green-blue creature. So you really only have Heartstone if you're trying to reduce the cost of this, but you're also in Selesnya, so I don't see a problem with doing like a Selesnya token deck. You can run Ashnod's Altar to help pay for the cost of that if you want to blink something. Other than that, it definitely cares about unicorns because it buffs other unicorns whenever they come into play. And you just pay either a green or a white and give them +1/+1 counters. So you have some +1/+1 counter synergies as well. So you could probably take this in a couple of different directions, which is something that I really like about this. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's a pretty decent, solid commander. I'm going to be very interested to see people playing this. Why not? Next up, we have a mono blue commander, it looks like. Bruvak the Grandiloquent. I hope I pronounced that correctly. That's what it looks like. 2 generic and a blue for a 1/4 legendary creature, Human Advisor. If an opponent would mill one or more cards, they mill twice that many cards instead. Okay, so we have a mono blue mill commander. The fact that they actually are using mill as a keyword now. I'm not sure how many cards they've errated on the Oracle text that have a mill effect to errata it to say mill. But that would be just kind of interesting to see. The fact that now the question lies in, is mill now an effective strategy? We have a mono blue legendary commander that mills twice. Then you think about, we had Teferi's Tutelage come out in M21, which says whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2 cards. And Teferi's Tutelage was basically another copy of Sphinx's Tutelage, there's another one, I believe it was Psychic Surgery, which are both blue enchantments that do the same thing. So, if those got errated to saying mill, then you can run all of those in this deck, and I feel like mill is now an effective strategy, potentially. It'll be interesting to see what people build. I'm not 100% sure if the strategy is going to work, but the fact that we're kind of leaning towards that a little bit now is the way it seems. So who knows? Mill might actually work in Commander. So that would be interesting, because the legendary creature for Bruvac here does help scale up the ability to mill out your opponents. Now, milling multiple players at one time, that's a little bit more tricky. Most mill cards you have to target a player. Not all mill cards will target each player, so that's something to think about as well. But I really like the design on this. It's kind of putting mill into the mix, which is very interesting in all honesty. So let's go ahead and check out the next one. Eniaz the Gale Force. 3 generic and 2 blue for a 4/4 legendary creature Djinn. I always look forward to seeing a legendary Djinn, but I haven't found one that I particularly like as a commander. Besides Elsha of the Infinite, if I'm not mistaken, I think she was a Djinn monk. Oh, he's not mono blue. Never mind. So he has flying, and he has an activated ability that costs 2 generic, hybrid white and blue. So we're talking blue-white. So it's an Azorius commander. That's cool. Attacking creatures with flying get +1/+1 till end of turn for the activated ability. That's actually pretty cool. Not really okay with having to pay for it at the same time, because there's a lot of Anthem effects. Let's see what else is on here. Whenever 3 or more creatures you control with flying attack, each player gains control of a non-land permanent of your choice controlled by the player to their right. That would be really interesting to see how that works. This is very, very confusing. I'm trying to picture how this would work at a table. So with something like this, if you have a bunch of flyers in an Aminatou deck, this kind of makes me think of Aminatu's ultimate ability, where you choose left or right, and everybody shifts all of their non-land permanents to that side, to that opponent. Besides Aminatou, she's the only one that doesn't move between Aminatou and lands. That's it. So that ability is kind of making me think of that. I feel, is this a blue-white chaos commander? I'm at a loss for words. So that seems interesting. Be careful what you wish for. Alright, so let's go ahead and go to the next one, which is Ormos, Archive Keeper. 4 generic and 2 blue for a 5/5 legendary creature Sphinx. Love when we get new Sphinxes. I've been waiting for a good Sphinx tribal commander. If that ever happens, besides Morphon, obviously I know that he could do it, but I want an actual Sphinx tribal commander. So he has flying. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, instead put 5 +1/+1 counters on Ormos Archive Keeper. Okay. 1 generic and 2 blue for an activated ability. You also have to discard 3 cards with different names, which is pretty easy in Commander. Draw 5 cards. Oh. Okay, so you pay 3, discard 3, you draw 5. So the activated ability helps you just get to the bottom of your deck. This is interesting, and you technically, as long as he's on the field, you technically don't lose, because instead of drawing the card as a replacement effect, you put 5 1/1 counters on him. So even if you play him while you still have cards in your library, you technically are not missing out on a draw, because the activated ability allows you to discard 3 cards and then draw 5 new cards. So you still have card draw, but his middle line here is basically it's a replacement effect, so you just buff him the entire time. And just one time of doing that turns him into a 10/10 flyer. That is insane. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I can see... Oh, no, if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it. Okay, so the activated abilities just help you get to the bottom of your library quicker. Yeah, I could still see a lot of crazy shenanigans. Plus, you're in blue. If you had a way to have multiple cards in your hand, like a Reliquary Tower or a Thought Vessel, just keep a bunch of counterspells and open mana up to keep him safe. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see that deck build, honestly. But again, some of these commanders coming out of this set so far just seem way different than what we're typically used to, which is what I like. The fact that we're getting completely different strategies open to us now. So Commander's going to be way more interesting with all of these very odd commanders. So let's check out the next one, which is Kel's Fight Fixer. Sounds like a bookie. 2 generic and 2 black for a 4/3 legendary creature, Azra Warlock. I don't think I've seen the creature type Azra before. Has menace. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, you may pay a hybrid blue-black, so it's a Dimir commander. If you do, draw a card. 1 mana, sacrifice a creature. Kel's Fight Fixer gains indestructible until end of turn. Okay, so she's a 4/3 with menace. She has an activated ability to give herself indestructible by sacking a creature. And whenever you sack a creature, so you pay 1 to sack a creature, give her indestructible, and then when you sack that creature, you can pay either a blue or a black, blue or black, and then draw a card. So she helps you get some card advantage, or at least not, you don't run out of cards really. So Aristocrat's blue-black commander, that'd be interesting to see, because I don't think there's a whole lot of aristocrat-style Dimir decks. I could be wrong. If I am, please let me know down in the comments below. Remember, I do first impressions on these. I'm not doing a whole lot of research into these cards when I'm doing these reviews. This is just first impressions, really. Alright, next one. This guy is so cute. He looks like something out of Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't care what anybody says. Tiny Bones, Trinket Thief. 1 and a black for a 1/2 legendary creature, Skeleton Rogue. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent discards a card this turn, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Okay. With the activated ability 4 generic and 2 black, each opponent with no cards in hand loses 10 life. Okay, so this is so it's a mono black discard commander, but it cares about your opponent's discarding, so not something like Anya Falconwrath. The fact that it makes you lose life is kind of So you need to probably have some way to get some life gain. Unless you can discard all of your opponent's hands and get them to no cards at all really, really quickly and keep them off of cards. That's the big thing. You would have to find a way to make sure they can't get hold of cards. And then you use this activated ability when they have no cards, and he comes with his own win con. That's kind of cool. I could probably see somebody doing like a infinite mana, get your opponent's hands empty, and then produce the infinite mana to be able to use him multiple times. So it's a total of 24 mana to get somebody from 40 to 0. But on top of that, you also have to make sure that your board is being protected, that you're able to get your opponent's hands emptied. So it'd be interesting to see the deck for this. I personally want a foil copy of this guy because I would totally build this deck. This is probably the cutest new commander that I've seen in a while because I'm a huge fan of Nightmare Before Christmas. So that's just me. Alright, on to the next one. Muxus, Goblin Granby. Okay. 4 generic and 2 red for a 4/4 legendary creature, Goblin Noble. I mean, we've had Goblin Kings, so why not a Noble? When Muxus Goblin Granby enters the battlefield, reveal the top 6 cards of your library. Okay. Put all Goblin creature cards with converted mana cost 5 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay. Whenever Muxus attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other goblin you control. Okay, so this... Alright, so it's a goblin commander. With this as the commander, though, it almost seems like you want to go with a Goblin Voltron build. But don't get me wrong, I would totally do some of the other ones with him. You could put him in the 99 of the other Krinko, the mob boss, the one that taps and you get a number of 1/1 goblin tokens equal to the number of goblins you control. So he doubles the number of goblins you have. So this, I definitely see that being played in that. Because 6 mana, you can, if you hit 5 CMC or less goblins on the top of your library, he goes in there. Not to mention, we got the new card from M21, Suspicious Snoop, or Conspicuous Snoop. The new experimental frenzy, basically, for goblins. Is what he basically makes me think of. So, yeah, this is definitely a card. It'd be nice to see a different goblin commander other than Krinko too. So I'm interested to see which one would be better on the power scale. I still think Krinko is better. It's more effective. He wins more games, honestly. I feel like he'll still win more games over Muxus, but I do like the design space on this because it's a little bit different than what goblins are usually... Like, it does the swarm tactic, because whenever he ETBs, you look at the top 6, you get all goblins. So that's doing what goblins do, swarms the battlefield. He cares about the number of goblins on your battlefield, but he buffs himself, so him as a commander, you can kill somebody with commander damage with a goblin deck. How often can people say that they've done that? Probably not nearly as often as a Tuvasa or a SRAM deck. Just saying. Alright, so next one. Sethron Heirloom General. Heirloom General? Sure. 3 generic and 2 red for a 4/4 legendary creature, Minotaur Warrior. Okay, here we go. Minotaurs. Whenever Sethron, Heirloom General, or another non-token Minotaur enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/3 red Minotaur creature token. Cool. Alright. 2 generic and a hybrid red-black, so he's still a Rakdos commander. Minotaurs you control get +1/+0 and gain menace and haste until end of turn. Okay, so another Rakdos Minotaur tribal commander. So the other really kind of notable Minotaur tribal commander would be... I know some people have said the god Mogus, the legendary enchantment god creature from Theros block. But a lot of people I've seen mainly use the other god. It's Nayef, the red-black Nayef commander. So this one, it's a little bit different. I kind of like this one a little bit better because it buffs and it helps you swarm the field with Minotaurs over Nayef, in all honesty. Like, I would still run Nayef in the deck, obviously, because he's still a Minotaur. He's still a piece for Minotaurs, so I would still run him. But this would be interesting. I kind of feel like I like this one a little bit more than Nayef as a commander. But, yeah. Alright, let's check out the next one. We have Zerzoth, Chaos Rider. Okay, 2 generic and a red for a 2/3 legendary creature devil. Okay, another legendary devil. This ought to be good. Whenever an opponent draws their first card each turn, so during their draw phase, if it's not their turn... Oh, okay. Whenever an opponent draws their first card each turn, if it's not their turn, you create a 1/1 red devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. Okay. Whenever one or more devils you control attack one or more players, you and those players each draw a card, then discard a card at random. So he helps produce... Okay, so at least he has a line of text that helps trigger that ability to create more devils. This is in mono red, of course, so it might be a little bit difficult to... I mean, I like it. It's kind of interesting. So if you have an opponent that's playing a Rustic Study, if nobody pays for the 1, they might get to draw a card, but you're getting another token off of this. So this ought to be interesting to see what would happen in a game with this. It seems fun. It's not vanilla. It's not too generic. It just seems good. So, but it's not the best by any stretch. But then again, I could be wrong again. So, let me know what you guys would do for a deck like this, because this just seems really interesting to me, in all honesty. Alright, and the next one, which is the last brand new commander from this set, which is Nayef of the Dire Hunt. Okay. 2 generic and 2 green for a 3/3 legendary creature, Human Warrior. That is a really awesome wolf in the artwork. I don't care what anybody says. Whenever one or more creatures you control fight or become blocked, draw a card. Nice. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 2 generic and a hybrid red-green. So this is a Gruul commander, so this is a red-green deck. If you do, double target creature's power until end of turn. That creature must be blocked this combat if able. Okay. So the activated ability forces them to block something, so that way you can trigger the first line of text to draw a card. So, yeah, this is kind of cool. This just seems kind of neat, in my opinion. I'm not too big on this being an actual commander. Like, in the 99 of something, sure, unless you're just in a big green-red Gruul big creatures deck, which is typically what those decks end up looking like. So this card just seems good. I like the forcing people to block to trigger the first line to draw cards, so it helps give you some card draw in the command zone. So, I mean, it seems fun. A lot of these seem super casual, which is what we really need. We don't need any more Cannons, Golos, Urza. We don't need any more of those. We don't need the high-powered, ridiculous level of commanders that we've been getting a lot of lately. So just having these very interesting new commanders that are bringing different design spaces, different strategies, and just seems more fun and more casual. I really am enjoying this. I'm not saying that I don't want them to ever print something that's really crazy and overpowered. I'm just saying that it needs to be done within reason sometimes, because, man, we've gotten a run of some really crazy powerful cards lately that a lot of people have complained about, and I see it from other YouTube channels all the time, and I just want people to have fun. That's what the game is supposed to be for. And a lot of people don't have fun with these crazy commanders that produce infinite mana combos and win through producing an infinite mana. Like, that's... we don't need a whole lot of that. Alright, so that was all of the brand new commanders. So let's take a look at some of the reprint commanders that we have in this set. Like I said, the Jumpstart set is got 26 legendary creatures. So let's take a look at some of these and see some of the notable ones that we're getting reprinted. Kirra, the Great Glass Spinner, 1 generic and 2 blue for a 2/2 legendary creature spirit, has flying. Creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability for the first time each turn, counter that spell or ability. So it kind of gives a little bit of protection to your creatures. I see this one mainly being used in the 99. I don't see a whole lot of people using this as a commander. But yeah, that's a nice reprint. Michaelis, the Lunarch, costs X and a white for a legendary creature, human cleric. He's a 0/0, but he enters the battlefield with X number of 1/1 counters on it. Tap and put a +1/+1 counter on him, or tap and remove a +1/+1 counter from him and put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. So this one was interesting. I actually did not know that this was a reprint. I've never actually seen this card, but as a commander, I'm not too thrilled about it because it'd be mono white. But if you're running in something like a Gabe deck or anything that cares about counters that's in white, this definitely goes in that deck. So I kind of like that. We have Linvala, Keeper of Silence, 2 generic and 2 white for a 3/4 legendary creature angel. Has flying, and activated abilities of creatures your opponents control cannot be activated. So, again, not one that you would build as a commander. This is more of a put in a stack style deck to slow down your opponents or stop your opponents. Anything that's taxing like that. We've got Talran, the Sky Summoner, 2 generic, 2 blue for a 2/2 legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. This card's been reprinted so many times. I guess if they just wanted to fill a slot, but Talran decks do exist. They're mainly mono blue. Fill it up with counter spells and stop your opponents from doing anything while you're building up an army of drakes. I've seen some more casual builds where it's more fun, but for the most part, Talran just gets super mean after a while. Especially if you especially if it's built right, it's ridiculous. Drana, Liberator of Malakir, 1 generic and 2 black for a 2/3 legendary creature vampire ally, has flying and first strike. Whenever Drana deals combat damage to a player, you put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature you control. So, again, I haven't seen. I mean, she's okay as a mono black vampire commander, but a lot of what I've seen her for is like in the 99 of something. Again, if you care about +1/+1 counters, go for it. This one I was surprised when I looked it up because this one was actually getting up there in price. Ghoulcaller Gissa. It's 3 generic and 2 black for a 3/4 legendary creature, human wizard. Pay a black tapper, sacrifice another creature, create X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. So, mono black zombie tribal commander, if you wish. You sack a 5/5 and you get 5 2/2s. And then after that, you can just sack one of the 2/2s and get 2 more 2/2s. So it gives you an additional one after a while. So you don't even have to sack a big creature after a while. Yeah, this just seems really, really dumb. I've never actually seen that, but now that I have, I want to see somebody build that deck. Gonti, Lord of Luxury, 2 generic and 2 black for a 2/3 legendary creature, Etherborn Rogue, has Death Touch, and whenever he enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library. You exile one of them face down, put the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order. You may look at and cast that card for as long as it remains exiled. And you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast that spell. You can... The cool thing with Gonti is you exile the card, you can cast it at any time, even if Gonti dies. So that's actually cool. And Gonti is one that I haven't seen a whole lot of people use, which is surprising because he's actually really good. So I feel like more people need to take a second look at this guy and use him more often, because I don't see him being played nearly as much as he probably should be. Because he also does a little bit of something that black doesn't normally do, which is really cool. Like, black will take your creatures from your graveyard, but you don't just get anything from your opponent. That's what Gonti does. So I feel like Gonti, people need to take another look at him. So, really good reprint. The Black Praetor, Childred, Whispering one. I'm kind of glad that they didn't reprint all of the Praetors. Childred is one of the very few Praetors that I'm okay with. I do not like the green one or the black one. Honestly, those are the meanest ones in my opinion. Childred is, don't get me wrong, she's pretty good. 5 generic and 2 black for a 6/6 legendary creature Praetor, Swamp Walk, so she cannot be blocked if you are swinging at somebody that has a swamp. So, just a little side note. At the beginning of your upkeep, you return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacks a creature. That is problematic because you constantly get creatures back, but your opponents are constantly having to sack creatures. So, Childred she's good. She's a great card, don't get me wrong, but she's not the meanest. At least she doesn't make you discard your entire hand. Let's see. We also... speaking of Krenko Mob Boss, 2 generic and a 2 red. For a 3/3 legendary creature, Goblin Warrior, tap, create X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, where X is the number of goblins you control. This apparently also got reprinted in this set. So, yeah, this is a really good reprint as well, because if I'm not mistaken, he was kind of getting up there in price. For a little bit. I remember he was getting about $10 last time I checked, which has been a while, granted, but he hasn't had a reprinting in a while. So, on to the next one. We have another reprint of Galta, Primal Hunger. The 10 generic 2 green for a legendary creature Elder Dinosaur. He's a 12/12 with Trample. And Galta costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. So, again, not the greatest as a commander, but in the 99 of a big green stompy deck, absolutely. Racecar, Penguin Renegade also got a reprint. 2 generic and a green for a 2/2 legendary creature Elf Druid. When it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Each creature you control with a counter on it has tap and add a green. So, Racecar is just pretty good ramping. Alright. And the last reprint that I'm going to really talk about is Selvala, Heart of the Wilds, 1 generic and 2 green for a 2/3 legendary creature Elf Scalp. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. 1 green tapper, add X mana in any combination of colors where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So she's actually a very good, if I'm not mistaken, there's a couple of CEDH builds with Selvala. A lot of casual players will use it more as just a ramp card in the 99. But she also produces the card draw to go with her as well. I've seen somebody actually do a casual build of her where you're doing mono green hydras basically, because they come out with X amount of counters, and then you just use Selvala to get more mana on top of what your lands are, and you just dump everything into a hydra every turn, so that way you get a bigger and bigger and bigger creature, so that way you're constantly drawing a card. So Selvala is just a really cool reprint as well. Alright, now that I've gone through those, what do you guys think? Jumpstart, I'm not too familiar with how the product works. It's supposed to be more cards in the booster pack. And from what I'm hearing, you take like 2 boosters and you make like a 40 card sealed deck out of it or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. Because with all the products that have been released lately, all of them kind of blend together, honestly, in my opinion. I'm playing catch up right now because M21 got finished, and then right after they finished the Jumpstart spoilers, so I will be trying to get these videos out as quickly as I can to try to catch back up. My next video, I'm going to just talk about the new cards that we're getting in Jumpstart that are probably more noteworthy for Commander, and I might do a separate video entirely, depending on how long that one is, talking about just the main notable high dollar reprints that we're getting in Jumpstart as well. But let me know what you guys think. Are there any new legendary creatures from Jumpstart that you're really excited to get hold of? Maybe build? Are you looking forward to building Tiny Bones as much as I am? Because he definitely looks like he belongs in a Tim Burton movie. I don't care what anybody says. And he's super cute about it. So be sure to let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next video.